Well, day two is in the books of the NFL draft, so we got to react to it. So the exact same thing that I did for my round one reactions, I have a collection of about 6 or 7 questions that I have to react to everything that happened on day two. So let's just get started with the first question here, which is, does Will Levis, finally being drafted at the top of the second round, make him a first round rookie pick in Superflex leagues? And honestly, I think he has to be a first round pick given the draft capital and the landing spots to all the other skill players on day two. I don't think that you can make good arguments for taking Charbonnet or a round 3 running back over Levis in the first round of your rookie drafts. I mean, maybe Kendrick Miller or Devon Achane just strictly for the landing spots, but that just doesn't feel like a good process pick for your rookie drafts. I also don't think any receivers drafted in the second round were really worth that draft capital. And then we go to third round, Jalin Hyatt, Cedric Tillman, Josh Downs. Are we taking tight ends over Will Levis? Maybe Dalton Kincaid, but after that, it just really feels like we need to have Will Levis in the first round. It just seems like the depth of this class just got really gross if it's forcing us to take Will Levis at the back of the first in our Superflex league. So I'm going to leave that up to y'all. If you want to take Will Levis at the back end of your first, or if you want to take some other rookies ahead of him, I definitely understand that too, because it is Will Levis and it is a second round quarterback pick. Not necessarily the greatest process there overall. So maybe the best case scenario is just, if you have a late first, try to trade out. Go for 2024. Go for a veteran player. If you're in Superflex leagues, maybe you can still snag like a Kirk Cousins or a Derek Carr or a Geno Smith with that late first round pick, which is probably honestly a better move to make than drafting a Will Levis or a round 3 running back at that spot. The next question here is, who is the rookie tight end 1, and did the draft change my rankings? And of course, Dalton Kincaid is my rookie tight end 1. He was basically in the same tier with Michael Mayer before the NFL draft, so I just moved Kincaid to the top of that list with his first round draft capital and amazing landing spot in Buffalo. But then after Kincaid, since we had a decent number of tight ends go on day 2, I think that you just have another tier of Michael Mayer and Sam Laporta, each of them getting really good landing spots early on in round 2. But then after that, I don't know if anybody else is really worth grabbing, with Musgrave and Kraft both going to Green Bay, Darnell Washington tumbling down to the back end of the third, Cameron Latou sneaking into the back end of the third. But really just going back to the original question, who is my tight end 1? It has to be Dalton Kincaid. And I'm very excited for his future. And I will be taking him as high as probably the 109 or 110 in just normal Superflex leagues, up to the 1.07 in tight end premium Superflex leagues. And I think that you can make an argument that he could be around the 106 or the 107 just in normal one quarterback leagues as well, after or even in between and amongst these first round wide receivers too. The next question is, which, if any, of the day 2 wide receivers have the ability to turn into better dynasty assets than the wide receivers that were drafted on day 1?
No.
All right, but seriously, I kind of feel vindicated by the NFL for my take before the draft that this rookie wide receiver class isn't that good. The top is nice. It was JSN, Addison, Johnson, Flowers, all got first round draft capital, all going to either solid to very good landing spots in that first round. But then day 2 was just really weird to me, with a bunch of guys who I don't think deserve second round draft capital, including like Jonathan Mingo. And I think Jaden Reed is okay, Marvin Mims. Then you get down to Jalin Hyatt, Cedric Tillman, and Josh Downs all falling to round 3. A couple other weird round 3 guys. This just feels like 2021 after the top guys of Chase Bateman, Devonta Smith all went in round 1. Then we had a bunch of questionable round 2 guys like Tutu Atwell, Dwayne Eskridge, Terrace Marshall was there too, who had upside but also didn't really have upside. Then guys like Diami Brown, Tylan Wallace, Nico Collins, Josh Palmer all went in the third. And then Amon-Ra fell to day 3. Now, I don't think there is an Amon-Ra in this class, some receiver that fell that is going to be really, really productive for fantasy. I mean, I'm sure Justin wants that to be Xavier Hutchinson, and we both honestly want that to be Josh Downs, which I'm going to be honest, I will fall for the landing spot trap there in Indianapolis, and I'll probably take him like 2.01 in Superflex leagues. Did I make that mistake last year with David Bell? Absolutely, but like Michael Scott said,
no question about it, I am ready to get hurt again.
But to summarize everything about how I feel about this rookie wide receiver class, I mean, the day 3 guys, they're not really on my radar. I don't really care about them. But of the players drafted so far, I really only want the guys that were drafted in the first round. I mean, I will take shots on Josh Downs just because I love Josh Downs. I think Jaden Reed could be a really interesting player as well, depending on where his ADP is. Like if he's a later second round pick, I would probably be interested in that too. But to be honest, I just don't really want any of the other guys. I'm letting other people take Jonathan Mingo and Marvin Mims and Tillman and Hyatt. I'm just going to let everybody else take those guys and probably either stack up on tight ends or just trade out of those picks entirely, because I don't feel good about the running backs in this class either. The fourth question that we have here is just, why is Seattle like this?
This is the worst.
But seriously, why? Why would you draft a second-round running back a year after you drafted a second-round running back who just rushed for 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns in basically 12 games played? I don't understand the thought process behind that decision. And to be honest, my initial take on this is that Kenneth Walker is going to be fine. In fact, I would use this as an opportunity to buy low on him if you can. See if you can flip like Ramondre in a second for him, or Javonte, some young wide receiver with potential like Burks or George Pickens. Go get Kenneth Walker if people are panicking and selling low off of this draft, because I honestly believe that Kenneth Walker is still the lead guy and will see 200 plus carries in this offense. I think that this really just screwed Zach Charbonnet, and I get the draft capital argument, but Walker's a second rounder too, like I just mentioned, actually taken higher in round 2 last year than what Charbonnet was in this draft. So I think the best example for how this backfield just could really look production wise is the Green Bay Packers, with a split between Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon after Dillon was drafted in round 2. And since he joined in 2020, Jones has seen still 225 plus touches every single season, actually 2 seasons over 250 touches, while A.J. Dillon has been around the 200 to 210 touch mark. But that still hasn't translated to anything more than just RB3 numbers for A.J. Dillon, while Aaron Jones has been an RB1 basically all 3 years with A.J. Dillon. Now, granted, he's getting receiving work that Kenneth Walker isn't going to get, which really helps him for fantasy. But I think the point remains that Walker's the RB1 in the Seahawks offense, Charbonnet's the RB2, and we'll just forever be waiting for Walker to get hurt, traded, or leave in free agency in 3 years so that Charbonnet can get the entire backfield. I actually moved Charb down to my RB5 in this class because of the landing spot. He's currently sitting behind Kendre Miller and Devon Achane as my RB5 in this class. So that leads me to this next question, which is, who is the RB3 in this class? And does one really even honestly exist? And I am both elated and discouraged to say that Kendre Miller has become my RB3 in this class, rising up from my pre-draft RB5. I'm elated and happy because I love Kendre Miller. I think he's a very underrated back that can be used as a 2-down workhorse, just minimum, or a 3-down bell cow if needed due to injuries or other such opportunities. The reason I'm discouraged that he's my RB3 is because of how we got to this point. Zach Charbonnet's value, like I just mentioned, has basically just disintegrated before our eyes by going to Seattle, and the only other running backs even drafted on day 2 were Devon Achane, Tyjae Spears, and Tank Bigsby. I wouldn't blame anyone for having Achane at RB3 for the landing spot in Miami, but I had Miller ahead of Achane pre-draft, and I like the Saints landing spot about as much as I like Miami for Achane, so Miller stays ahead of him. But I can't really rationalize any other running back ahead of those two, including Zach Charbonnet. The sixth question here is, who is the biggest veteran winner from day 2? And I just want to collectively say basically every single starting veteran running back, I mean, minus a couple of the guys, but the majority of veteran starting running backs have been the biggest winners of the NFL draft so far. If you've been the guy that held on to Dalvin Cook, he's a winner. Joe Mixon, he's a winner. Dameon Pierce, winner. Ramondre Stevenson, winner. James Conner, winner. Tony Pollard, winner. On and on and on. This running back class honestly had the potential to do some serious damage to a lot of veterans that we value highly in Dynasty, but almost all of them came out clean on the other side. Even the teams that drafted a running back on day 2, for the most part, I'm not really concerned about the majority of them. Tyjae Spears honestly doesn't do anything to Derrick Henry's value other than just to confirm the fact that he's aging and isn't going to be the guy forever. Tank Bigsby also does nothing to my value on Travis Etienne, and even Kendre Miller, who I love in New Orleans, I don't think massively affects Alvin Kamara's value outside of just all the other concerns that we have for him already, like age, suspension, how long is he even going to be on the team. I don't think Kendre Miller accelerates or does anything else to Alvin Kamara's dynasty value that we weren't already concerned about in the first place. So if you've been rostering a bunch of running backs coming into the draft, chances are that most, if not all of them that you'll have rostered came out pretty unscathed from the NFL draft so far. And I'm not really concerned about anybody really taking a day 3 guy unless, I mean, Isaiah Pacheco is still out there. He was a 7th round pick. So just any running back that they were to draft on day 3 has better or the same draft capital as Isaiah Pacheco. So I think he's the last one that I'm really still kind of worried about. But everybody else, basically, I'm not concerned about day 3 guys if their team hasn't taken a running back already. And then the final question, through 3 rounds, is it safe to call the 2023 rookie class underwhelming compared to the hype for this class before the draft? And I think that there are 2 ways that we can look at this. Either one, yes, just straight up, it is underwhelming now that we've spent a better part of like a year and a half hyping this class up as the next great rookie class. And now that we're about to make these picks and we're here, the depth has just dried up quickly, and it's just not the class that we expected to get a year or a little over a year from where we are now. But on the flip side, I think you could also argue that the only reason that it is underwhelming right now is because the NFL draft just really wrecked the values of these players due to certain landing spots and draft capital, which I think could mean that we are now undervaluing this class and should still be expecting quality players to come out of it even after the top group of guys. I honestly think there's a bit of truth in both of those statements, but just sitting it now as it's all fresh, I'm recording this like 15 minutes after round 3 just ended. It really does feel like an underwhelming class as basically every pick past like the 111-ish has just disintegrated in value and does not feel good picking any of these players with any of those picks. So those are my reactions from everything that happened on day 2, and we still have rounds 4 through 7 to go, and there are still a handful of guys that I'm very interested in terms of when and where they actually go. So if you want to see me highlight and break down a few of those guys that I'm very interested in on day 3, then you can watch them in that video right up here.